everyone. Welcome to EntrepreNINES. I'm John Wist.
And I'm Bonni Mace. We are two Enneagram 9s who took the big leap into the world of entrepreneurship at a similar time. And this podcast is a space where we are inviting you to laugh and learn with us as we work to build businesses with soul. Episode 19.
19.
We're going to be vulnerable.
You really hit a note. Sorry.
I deserve that.
I just thought I'd point that out.
That post-lunch energy.
Yeah. We're going to get vulnerable.
Yeah.
About imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked, it's not the first time we've talked about imposter syndrome.
Right.
But we're going to just dig a little deeper into just what is this thing and how do we cope with it, and maybe some suggestions of how you can cope with it.
Yeah.
So that we can not all feel impostery and then walk away and be like, oh, just still feel like an imposter.
Yeah. Like wallow in our imposter. I mean, I feel like whenever I refer to it, I talk about it like it's an old annoying friend or something.
Yeah.
Like they're always there. They're just part of my life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But
yep.
Hopefully not always that way. We'll see.
Right. I do think there's just elements I think that are always going to come up where there's the twinge of doubt that seeps in at some level. Even if you're feeling like super confident about one area, there's too many areas, and you don't need to be an expert about all of them, and so you're always going to have a little bit of that. Probably.
And there should always be innovation, like if you're running a business, because I guess the trap otherwise would be like, well, this is what I've always done.
Right.
Which is just a different kind of imposter syndrome when you can't innovate, right?
Yeah, that's good. It's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Nice job, Bonni.
What is imposter syndrome, John? How would you define it?
I think from personal experience, imposter syndrome is normally when I look at a challenge or a project or a hurdle in my path and go, nope, can't do it. Nope, don't have the tools, don't have the experience, nope.
Nope, words, can't speak.
No. Yeah, like that. That's imposter syndrome.
That's good.
For me. No, I think it is. It's normally when something comes up that feels big and stretching, and I go, yep, don't think I can do that one. And that's imposter syndrome for me.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. How would you define it?
How would I define it?
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah.
I did it with lots of grunts and things, but you don't have to go.
Yeah, I mean, like scientifically speaking, it's just feeling like you don't belong somewhere where you've been invited to be.
Yeah.
And so I think that does help. That does help with me a little bit. Is like, I'm telling you I can do this, but I'm not sure. Is always how I want to.
Right.
When we did a little bit of therapy with my son, we got to learn pride skills, which if you've ever done behavioral stuff with your kid, like we went for kid with anxiety.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I learned while we were learning our pride skills that I end my sentences on an uptick more often than not.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And our therapist was like, you have to stop doing that. It makes you sound like you're asking a question.
Yeah.
And see, I just did it.
Like you don't know.
Yeah. And he said, you have to end it. Sure. And that has been so hard for me. And I see it pop up all the time. Yeah. And that's basically imposter syndrome for me. It's just always this, I'm going to say words, but I don't know if I think I'm right.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm not, and maybe I shouldn't be saying these things to you. Maybe you shouldn't have invited me here.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't market like this.
Right.
Because even though I believe in it, maybe I live in a delusional reality.
Yeah.
Like whole thing.
Yeah. So interesting that you bring that up because and Lauren helped me to recognize it, and I'm starting to try to catch myself. And it's mostly with our kids, but I will often say like, okay.
I do this too. Maybe this is a 9 thing.
Yeah. At the end of a sentence, and I'll be like, so I'll say something to our kids that's meant to be not authoritative as in like I'm punishing or disciplining, but it's just meant to be
I'm
like,
your parent.
This is what's going to happen. And then I will say, okay, And
I do this all the time, John.
and I think what I'm looking for is like a response that says, okay, I understand. Like I'm comprehending, right?
Like, but, you heard me speak, right?
Right. Yeah. But what it's opening me up to is for my kids to feel like there is unsuredness in it, and that I have to get their approval before we can move forward. And that's not what I'm after, but it doesn't, yeah. So, but in the same sense, I was also going to say that I've been trying to study a little bit more like sales stuff, sales processes and stuff. And one thing that keeps getting said over and over again is like, just, you don't ask, like when you present a proposal to somebody, like you put it out there and you just say, this is what it is. And you don't say things like, let me know what you think, or let me know if you have any questions. Like, you don't add those things on, because then it opens the door for doubt that you are actually presenting something that you believe in, right? It's opening a door for there to be, for you are already suggesting that they should question it before they even read it. And so I've been working on that, where it's just part of my personality to be like, hey, just let me know if anything's, if you need anything, or if if everything's okay.
Does that make sense? I mean, that's a perfect 9 statement, and we want to be understood. And
exactly.
Does this make sense?
Yeah, exactly. And the reality is, it's like, no, you need to be confident in that.
But I would feel more confident if you let me know if this made sense.
Exactly. Yes. How do I get feedback if I don't ask for it? But yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That makes me want to go back and look at all of my writing and posts, and also not do that at the same time. So yeah,
that sounds terrifying in some ways.
Super. Yeah. That is challenging. Another thing I recently read too, and this is one thing I do a ton in my writing, and I brought it partially from working in ministry, because there in ministry, you're trying to create a very like community vibe. And like, particularly in our ministry, we were trying not to make it sound like there was like one person who was smarter than all the other people. At least that's the vibe I was trying to bring. So use a lot of we in our branding language and stuff. But I recently read someone saying that the biggest selling word you can use is you. Yeah. Because then someone is like, oh, you're talking directly to me. Yeah. So I have been trying to change that in my writing as well. Is just be very like, instead of being like, sometimes we struggle with imposter syndrome. And changing it to like, when you struggle with imposter syndrome.
No, sometimes you struggle. Yeah.
So that's been an interesting, but it's just all these things that like are nice comfort. Like they're like warm blankets for your imposter syndrome, is asking if people understand and trying to be inclusive in your language. And not that you should be exclusive, but you know what I mean?
But coming right out and saying you have imposter syndrome feels full of conflict. Yeah,
it does.
And so that also for us as 9s is going to be like, oh no,
like, right? Don't you have imposter syndrome? Yeah. That's what I want to say.
Do you think you might have some imposter syndrome? Yeah. I don't know. Maybe. Okay.
And then also having to remember that when you say, when you have imposter syndrome, doesn't exclude the fact that like, I've never had it.
Right.
That's, I always want to be like, empathize with the, So.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah.
That's neither here nor there.
Yeah. I think, I do think like this for me comes out a lot when I'm either trying to look into a new area, right, to try things, or people are asking me to look into something new to try. And it's things that I probably have done before, but I don't have as much experience in them. And so then it's like, how do I tell them I can't do this? It's kind of like the question that comes to my mind first. Like I had like, this is happening
as we
like,
speak.
like right now.
Yeah.
Where like the original ask was very much like, oh yeah, I can do that. And then I get like the actual ask, right? Cause it's more than that. And it's like, oh no. Like, this isn't even like,
you've got the wrong guy.
Right. This isn't even something my company offers. Like, I've never like, and so I think, some of it is that, but then some of it is just even in the normal everyday stuff, you wind up talking yourself out of like, Another example a recent example I'll give you is like, I saw a post from a guy that I kind of follow a little bit. He's asking for some editing help. Like he wants some more consistent editing help. And at first I was like, oh, that might be kind of good. If I just like keep, it's just one of those things where if I'm doing it more and I'm practicing more and I'm going to get paid for it, then great. Like that just gives me a little bit more, just work the muscles a little more. And so I was like, oh, well, maybe I should. And then I'm like, you know what? He wouldn't like my stuff.
Oh no, Tom.
Like he would hate it. Like why would he want to hire me? Like why? So finally I gave it a day and I was like, I'm just going to think about it and I'm just going to let it be. I'm going to let it simmer and decide, is this something I really want to do? And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and message him. Like, why the heck not? What's the worst he can say is no, right? So I message him and he gets back to me like right away.
Ooh.
And he's like, you get it. I was like, what? Because I had to send him some samples of stuff. And he's like, this is the type of stuff these are the stories I want to tell. That's awesome. And I was like, okay. And then he's like, by the way, I've gotten probably like 60 or 70 DMs about this.
Wow.
And you're the first person I wanted to talk to.
Why didn't you just ask me? Okay. But yes, good for you.
Thank you. Sorry. But well, I know if I would have,
that was my initial reaction.
Well, this is
self-control
I know.
for a minute.
And we'll get there, right? We're going to get to the coping because I think there are things that I could have done in this situation that would have erased the doubt very quickly.
Yeah.
Because if I were to go back now and read what he wrote when he was soliciting it, there was a reason why my brain said you should message him.
Yeah.
And it's because we were on the same wavelength about what he was looking for, right? So again, that's just in the moment, me doubting myself. Yeah. And just being like, oh, no.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one thing we hope to with this podcast is just normalize the fact that imposter syndrome is very normal.
Yeah.
And I think probably only like egomaniacs on the scale probably are like the only people who never deal with this and think they can take on everything, right? But it's very normal. It takes over and it's persuasive and fast and it's grab.
And it just sinks you to a place that isn't very good. Like, I don't know. Well, for me, like I get stuck on it a little bit. Like just the idea of it. Like I get stuck on the idea of I can't do it. And that's why, like, for that example, like I needed a day to then come back and I promised myself I would reread it and I would consider it again the next day.
That's great. Yeah.
But I think that's one of the things, is I get stuck in it and I'll start just thinking about how I can't do it or like I'll start trying to create the reasons, whether they're true or not for why I can't do it. So yeah.
Oof. I'm trying to think. Mine has most recently come out probably most extensively like when I was actually writing and putting together my website.
Yeah.
Like the more legit I made my website feel, the more I was like, I should just build other people websites.
Oh, remember this that graphic design?
This is too good for me. Yeah. This website is putting up a front that I cannot hold up. Yeah. Like it's kind of, and it's not that great of a website either, but it's just one of those things of like, do I deserve this amount of effort from myself to present myself in this way? So it would be like, I would literally get one little section done, especially when I was laying it out after I'd written everything. And I'd be like, I need to have a coffee and then a nap and then a long scroll on Instagram and it just really made me tired.
Well, remember we were talking about this too, how I was saying like as I've started to think about everything I have to redo to make my website what I would like it to be or a reflection of what I would really like it to be, like the thing that I am least looking forward to is like going back and making like a reel or making like going to my old work and like piecing things together to demonstrate what I've done. Like that sounds,
it's a direct challenge to your imposter syndrome.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I think the website is a good example of like it coming out for sure.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit, even now, even with social media, it's still kind of your like front page to the world. So,
yep.
That's tough.
Okay. So what do we do? You're not stuck in imposter syndrome. You've been afflicted by it.
Many times.
Yeah. Like wrestling, like I can refer to a text message just from the last week of John being very vulnerable and saying, I'm putting together this and I feel like a huge imposter.
Yes.
So it's been a recent reality, but here you are putting out quotes and all the whatnots.
Yeah. So I think number one, like we talked about just a couple minutes ago, like giving myself space and time to remind myself what I can and cannot do. Like there are definite limitations to what I can do.
Yeah, that's just healthy self-awareness.
Right. I have boundaries and I also have limitations. And so
and there's stuff you just don't like.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think reminding myself what some of those limitations are is a good thing, because then it tells me where I need help. And I think that the thing that I'm learning more, and that I've learned in like even the past week, is like, just because I can't actually pull that off doesn't mean I can't offer to be a part of the solution. And
claps for that. That was great.
Thanks. And it just means that I need to find the right people who have the ability to do that, who I can work with. And I think that is a huge hurdle to overcome for a solopreneur, entrepreneur, because you expect yourself to have to do everything when in reality you can call people.
Yep. You don't have to be all the things.
Somebody just talked about that. Somebody just talked about that.
It's okay. I believe it. It's true. That's good though.
Big talk they just did. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's one thing is like giving if I can allow myself some time and space to, number one, get myself to a bad place probably, and number two, pull myself out of it. Like I think that's okay. Number two is to always have someone who I can talk to who can remind me of who I am and what I can do. Yeah. And that's often my wife, because she's
a good egg.
She's a good egg, and she's there with me all the time. And she's often the one to be like, why are you being so dumb about this? Like, you have done this before. And I think that's the reminder of like, you have done this before, or you have tried, or you've succeeded at this before, or this is not a foreign concept, like any of those kinds of things is like a slap in the face to be like, okay, I can wake up now. I have at least some of the tools to be able to accomplish something like this.
Yeah. And you've done new hard things before. Right. And I think she probably helps you remember that too.
Yes.
Yeah. She's a good one. Yeah. I can hear her saying it just like that. Why are you being so dumb? But like in a sweet way.
Yeah, in the nicest, kindest way, of course. Why are you being dumb? So,
yeah, that's really good.
Okay, what's your coping mechanism? I came up with 3. Yeah.
One of them I haven't referenced in a while, so I'll start with that one because I remembered it back from ministry days. That's imposter syndrome. I want to do speaking and I say words like ministry. Is having an encouragement drawer. So I think I need to do some things like print out the reviews that people have sent me or feedback surveys and things like that and put them somewhere physically. Yeah. So that when I'm feeling really impostery, I can go back and reference like, this is something that a real person said about something I did for them. Yeah. And if it helps one person,
it's really good.
Yeah, that's like good enough to keep on going. And even if that's the one person I help for the rest of my life and that's it, I have this one thing here, I can keep moving forward and being faithful. And so I need to reinstitute my encouragement drawer.
Yeah.
I don't actually have space for like a whole drawer in here. I had a filing cabinet back then, so I'll have to figure out. Maybe it'll be like a nice box or something.
There you go.
But
that's good
because I can put it on my fancy shelf.
Oh,
But anyway, so I need an encouragement box to refer to.
Mm-hmm.
But then the other thing I'll do is I'll go back and read stuff I've read stuff I've written before. Bless you.
Sorry.
And that's always surprising because I'm like, oh, this is pretty insightful. Like sometimes some of the stuff I've written is dumb and that's just true for everyone. But there are some times that I can go back, and there are times that I even can go back to journals and things like that and see myself reflecting on or postulating about what could be, or like pulling apart some issue. And now down the road, I'm like, oh my goodness, I was totally right about this.
Yeah.
That just blows your mind, you know, as I had a hunch about this and I was processing it here in this journal, and time has passed and shown that like my gut was good here. Yeah. So I will go back and do that sometimes. Again, there is some stuff sometimes you read that you're like, oh, you poor little girl, like you were so helpful or whatever. But more often than not, in my experience, when I've written it down and really taken the time to process it, I'm like, oh, this is helpful. And so as a coach or someone who's trying to be a coach, you know, there was imposter syndrome. That's really helpful. And just going back and seeing like, okay, this was helpful for me, or this is an old blog post and here's some comments on that.
Having a record.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then my final one would be to one of my 4, just empathetic self-awareness and being aware of the lies that I tend to go towards all the time. Because I'll definitely fall trapped to the like, no one cares what I have to say.
Right.
One.
Yep.
A lot.
Yeah.
I just challenged that, like doing this social media challenge yesterday. Of like, no one cares.
Right.
You know, and I just showed up and did this like hour by hour story thing yesterday.
Yep.
Just because I needed to challenge that lie.
Yep.
Period. So knowing the lies that I tend to fall for, then naming them as such. Yeah. And then having some canned truth to counter it with. Yeah. So yeah, when I fall for the lie, like no one cares what I have to say. Like, that's not true. Like I can think of 3 people who have appreciated something I've said in the last month. Yeah. Or this person who reached out in a text message or whatever. And that it's not fair to say no one cares when I even have this handful of people who I can help and benefit. Yeah. So there are definitely other lies that come up all the time. Yeah. But being aware of them and then just being able to say in the moment, like, okay, so my like respond to a thing was very opposite of yours. Okay. Because it was for Creative 24. Okay. Yep. So I'm scrolling around on Instagram and on the stories. Nick Goodner, who's the founder, he just put up in his stories, hey, I like to like help budding speakers, you know, with Creative 24. And if that's you and you're interested, just put your name here. Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. That would be so fun to speak at that conference. Click to the next couple stories. And then I was like, no, I'm going to go back and put it in. And I was just like, and then I got to it and, you know, you have to like hold your finger on it to pause the story. And I was just looking at it and I was like, I don't know if this box is for me. And I had to just be like, okay, I know my gut is good. So if my gut said that would be fun and you should put your name there, I'm just going to go with my gut in that moment and put my name in there. And then boom, it worked out. Yeah. So, I mean, that's an ideal scenario in that. Yeah. And that one, but
I do think that for us as nines, our guts are so much more accurate than we ever give them credit for.
It's true.
And it is something that, while I can't say it's a coping mechanism for imposter syndrome, because I don't think it's not something that you always like are in tune with enough in the moment to use effectively.
That's very true.
But I do think it's another actual encouragement post imposter syndrome of saying like, the first time I heard that, or the first moment I had to process, can I do this or not? I said, oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it, like it's nothing. Like it, like it's easy as going for a walk. Like, and I think that you can, just for our personalities, like I do think it's helpful to be able to have something like that to look back on and say, you know, right now I feel like crap about this. I feel like there's no way I can do this. But the very first moment that I heard about it, I was like, yes,
I'm on board.
100%. And so I do think that's helpful. And honestly, I don't know what it would be like without having that gut feeling to not fall back to at times. But, you know, I think that it's a tool that we just, it can be really difficult to identify it in the moment, but it's there.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's taking me work, I think, and I'm more in tune with my gut reaction when I'm doing things that are good for me.
Yeah.
You know, rhythms wise, or like if I'm running around stressed out, I'm not paying attention to my gut.
Right.
But when I'm taking the time to be still, when I'm on social media, when I'm supposed to be, and not all the time, when I'm doing my little walks, you know, then it comes up and I can say, hold on, you know, that was gut. This is not true for every Enneagram type. Some of y'all need to slow your roll all the time. But for a 9, we probably need to speed it up. I mean, generally speaking, we need to go back to that first intuition. So I think you're right. And it just is. And that instance, I think, is one of the few times that I can go back to and say, and almost use the word impulsive, you know, like just impulsively responded. Yeah. And there was a little more urgency because it was a story I knew it was going to go away in 24 hours. Yeah. Yeah. So that helped, but it almost did feel impulsive the way I responded to it. But my gut knew.
But I would say even the day, you know, my sitting for a day on this message to the guy, like even that the next day felt impulsive. Like, like I'm sitting there, I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm doing it. I'm spending like 30 minutes, you know, like gathering videos up he can watch. And here's like all the things. Cause he asked specific questions. That was another interesting thing, is like, he asked specific questions and I answered all of them. And he's like, you'd be surprised how many people didn't answer all the questions. It's like,
but that was part of the rules.
I mean, you answered, like you asked 4 questions. I answered 4 questions. Anyways. So, but yeah, I like, it's even then it still felt impulsive, which is funny, but, yeah. That's
good.
Yeah.
Okay. Imposter syndrome doesn't have to take its over is what we're learning.
Yeah.
But also it's really hard.
Yeah. Well, cause I think you're going to feel it more often than you're not. Right. I mean, and I'm not saying that on like a daily basis. I'm saying like when a new opportunity or a new, you know, or something with new potential comes to you, I think a lot of us, no matter what kind of personality type you are, default to, I can't do it. Yeah. I don't have the tools. I don't have the experience.
I'm not going to do it perfectly. Like that.
Yeah, I'm not.
Oh, sorry, guys.
That's okay.
It's time to pick up my son.
Oh, yeah. So we'll wrap it up. I'm not going to.
No, Mark's going.
Okay. Okay. I'm not going to succeed on the first try.
Yeah.
I'm going to fail, all those things. And it comes back to a lot of what we talked about before of like, what is success, right? Like, what is success?
Oh, maybe Mark's not going, guys.
In your mind. So you need to go. Okay.
In a minute.
Okay.
Sorry,
John. But what is success? You know, I think it comes back to that too.
Yeah.
Because success isn't always getting it right the first time.
Nope, it's definitely not. And I don't think people generally hire you to be perfect.
Right.
Most of the time.
Right.
People are much more gracious than we give them credit for.
It's very
and
true.
Then we have these high crazy standards.
Yeah.
That the imposter syndrome comes in and says, you could never. Well, of course I can never be perfect, but that's not the ask.
Right.
The ask is achievable.
Right.
Actually.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
At least that's my part of mine as a recovering perfectionist.
Yeah.
So.
Well, when we set higher standards for ourselves than other people set for us. So we also have to remind ourselves that like the standards that I believe I should meet are probably way higher than what they're expecting. Yeah. And meeting their expectation is your goal, not meeting your own. So.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But not perfection.
Not perfection.
But that's imposter syndrome in a nutshell.
That was good.
Yeah. And one of our shorter episodes.
Yeah.
This is what happens when we record multiple in a row. We can meet our time goal.
Yeah. And when we also like talk through things probably a little bit more, sketch it out.
Yeah, it definitely helps.
Yeah. So,
but yeah.
All right.
Well, you can find us on the internet. All of our very great things that show you we're not imposters.
Yeah.
That
we know what we're doing. Make sure to also leave us a rating and review so other people can find us too. And then Bonnie's gonna go pick up her son from school.
I'm gonna go pick up my son from school. I'm not rushed about it in this moment, but maybe in another 2 minutes I would feel rushed.
Yeah. So we'll just shut it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll stop here.
Yeah. Thanks for coming along and helping us not feel like imposters.
Yeah.
Your listening ears mean the world.
Yeah. Because it's fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.